much would you be willing to pay for a beer at the ballpark? $6, 8, 10? Well, what if it was 10 cents?
Who doesn't love cheap beer at a sporting event? That was the idea, at least, for a promotion from the Cleveland Indians during a game against the Texas Rangers on June 4th, 1974. Having a team that lacked talent, the attendance at the team's Cleveland Stadium was the league's lowest. Many of the home games in the early part of the season saw 85% of the seats unsold. Due to that, the team's vice president scrambled for ideas to improve crowd size, and after an employee suggested the highly popular idea of 10-cent beers, the date a few weeks later was set. Trying to improve attendance by offering cups of alcohol beer for just 10 cents each, this equates to 65 cents in 2024 dollars. Being a substantial discount of 85%, management put a limit of 6 beers per purchase. This really didn't matter as there was no limit on number of purchases a person could make. Having held previous promotions like this without incidents before, the beginning of Dime Beer Night started in 1971, and management didn't think this promotion would be any different than others. However, tension in the crowd that night was high, as just 6 days before, the two teams had met in Texas and had a widely publicized benches-clearing brawl. Featuring headhunting pitchers, punches were thrown in the brawl, and a fair number of beers were tossed at the Indians players from the crowd. In the end, the game went the way of the Rangers 3-0. This final score, mixed with the bad blood of the brawl, resulted in a rowdy and belligerent crowd on the night of the 4th. Drawing a crowd size of 25,000 people, this number was twice what Indian management expected for a regular season Tuesday night matchup. By the bottom of the 6th inning, the Rangers were leading 5-1, and the crowd had become increasingly inebriated and unruly. Several incidences occurred throughout the early part of the game which brought concern to league officials. In the 3rd inning, Cleveland's Leroy Lee hit a line drive into the stomach of Rangers pitcher Ferguson Jenkins. After he fell to the ground in pain, fans were heard chanting, hit him again, harder this time." An inning later, a woman ran out onto the Indians' on-deck circle, flashed the players, and then tried to kiss the umpire. After several other streakers and game-interrupting field stormings, it was clear the crowd was out of control. Further proving this point, the first baseman for the Rangers was pelted with hot dogs, spat at, and at one point nearly struck by an empty gallon of wine.
I must have had probably 15 or 20 pounds of hot dogs thrown at me playing first base. The one memorable thing I had thrown at me was an empty gallon jug of Thunderbird wine. I thought this is not all fun and games now. It's kind of gotten a little past the serious stage.
Later in the 5th inning, the Rangers manager came onto the field to argue a call in which the base runner was called safe in a close play at third. Spiking the Rangers' third baseman with his cleats, the Indians player caused him to leave the game. The Rangers' angry response to this call provoked an enraged outburst from Cleveland's fans, who began throwing objects onto the field, one of those objects being a lit firecracker into the Rangers' bullpen. By this point, the mood of the game was instantly ruined. The families of players and those fans who remained sober had mostly left the ballpark, and the remaining crowd became increasingly intoxicated and belligerent. Demand for beer had also surpassed the Indians' capacity to supply the concession stands, and to subvert this, management allowed fans to line up behind the outfield fences to have their cups filled directly from the beer company's trucks. The crowd, who had been drinking for 3+ hours, finally came to a boiling point in the bottom of the 9th inning. The Indians managed to rally and tie the game at 5-5 and had a man on second. Representing the game-winning run, just as the Indians had a chance to win the game with some late-inning heroics, the rowdy crowd couldn't be held back anymore. A 19-year-old fan named Terry Yerke ran onto the field and attempted to steal Texas outfielder Jeff Burroughs' cap. Confronting Yerke over his stolen hat, Burroughs stumbled to the ground in dramatic fashion. Thinking that Burroughs had been attacked, Rangers manager Billy Martin and his players ran onto the field wielding bats. A large number of intoxicated fans, some armed with knives, chains, and clubs fashioned from portions of stadium seats that had been torn apart, then surged onto the field. 200 fans surrounded the 25 Rangers, and many more were coming. Realizing the Rangers' lives might be in danger, Cleveland manager Ken Aspromonte ordered his players to grab bats and help the Rangers. Attacking the team's own fans in the process, rioters began throwing steel folding chairs, one of which struck Cleveland relief pitcher Tom Hilgendorf in the head. The two teams managed to fight off rioters and retreated off the field through the dugouts in groups. Both teams fled into their clubhouses, closing and locking the doors once inside. Realizing the game would not be restored in a timely fashion, the umpire crew chief forfeited the game to Texas. He too was a victim of the rioters, as one struck and cut his head with part of a stadium seat. Although the box score shows a final score of 5-5, the official game score was a 9-0 win for the Rangers. The rioting continued for 20 minutes after the teams and umpires left the field, and anything left on the field was stolen by the crowd, including the infield bases and anything left in the dugouts. As Joe Tate and Herb Score called the riot live on radio, Score noted the security guard's inability to handle the crowd. Tate responded by saying, "This is an absolute tragedy." An hour after the game ended, the Cleveland police finally arrived to restore order, arresting 9 fans. Cleveland general manager in the days later blamed the umpires for losing control of the game, but American League president Lee MacPhail later commented there was no question that beer played a part in the riot. This point certainly held more water, as the following night only 8.1 thousand people attended the game for night 2 of the series. Thankfully, this game went on without any issue. The Indians' management learned from this disaster, as only a month later they had another 10-cent beer night promotion on July 18th. This attracting 41,000 fans, with beer again selling for 10 cents per cup. This time they put a limit of 2 cups per person at the reduced price to help avoid any belligerent fans.